So in this video, we're going to go over some problems that are similar to what's in the Unit 5 test part 2. So here it asks you to simplify 405 x to the 7th, y to the 14th, c to the 15th. So remember, what you need to do here is you need to first figure out what's the biggest fourth power that will evenly divide 405. So if you use the chart that's linked in the notes, you'll find that we can rewrite this as the fourth root of 81 times the fourth root of 5. Okay, because 81 times 5 equals 405. And then what we can do here is simplify the fourth root of 81, and that's going to be 3. So we have 3 times the fourth root of 5. So now we've simplified the numerical part. Now let's work on the variables. So we have the fourth root of x to the 7th, the fourth root of y to the 14th, and the fourth root of z to the 15th. So let's look at the fourth root of x to the 7th. So remember, we want to factor out the biggest number that's divisible by 4, but it's less than 7. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this as the fourth root of x to the 4th times the fourth root of x cubed, right? Because we have that exponent property that a to the m times a to the n equals a to the m plus n, and that's what allows us to do that. So when we do that, remember, now we can divide these exponents, right? We can do 4 divided by 4, and so that's just going to give us like an x to the 1, which is just x, and then we have the fourth root of x cubed. Now let's go to the y. Okay, so the biggest number divisible by 4 that's less than 14 is going to be 12. So we can rewrite this as the fourth root of y to the 12th times the fourth root of y squared. So the fourth root of y to the 12th, well, that's just going to be 12 divided by 4, so that's y cubed. And then we have the fourth root of y squared. Okay, now let's work on the fourth root of z to the 15th. So that's going to be the fourth root of z. And then the biggest number divisible by 4 that's less than 15 is going to be 12. So we have the fourth root of z to the 12th times the fourth root of z cubed. So the fourth root of z to the 12th, we do 12 divided by 4, so we have z cubed. And then we have the fourth root of z cubed. So remember, to get our final answer, we're going to collect all the terms on the outside first. So I'm going to collect these terms. So I have 3x y cubed z cubed. Okay, so I'm just going to write them all together. So I have 3x y cubed z cubed. Okay, and then everything inside the cube, sorry, not the cube root, everything inside the fourth root I'm going to put together. So all these terms right here, so I have the fourth root of 5x cubed y squared, and then I have z cubed. Okay, so all of this all together is my fully simplified answer. Okay, so now let's work on rewriting this as an imaginary number. So I have 108. And what I need to do is now figure out what is the biggest perfect square that evenly divides 108, right? So the biggest perfect square that evenly divides 108 is going to be 36. So I'm going to go ahead and factor out that 36, and so that leaves me with a -3 under the square root. Okay, so what I do is that square root of 36, that's going to become 6. So I have 6, and then the negative square root of 3, well, remember, that's basically the square root of 3 times the square root of -1. Well, we know now that the square root of -1 is I, so I'm just going to write this now in the correct form. So I'm just going to put this I with 6 and then put the square root of 3 at the end. So this is all going to simplify now to 6i times the square root of 3. So now let's multiply these two complex numbers together. So remember, the best way to do this is to use FOIL, just like we did when we were multiplying binomials. So I'm going to take the first terms, 6 times 5, and multiply them together, and then I get 30. Now we do the outside terms, so we do 6 times -4i, so that gives us -24i. And then we do the inside terms, so 3i times 5, so that's going to give me 15i. And then I do the last term, so I have 3i times -4i. And so 3 times -4 is -12, and then I times I, remember, is I squared. Well, remember, we know that I squared is equal to -1, so -12 times -1 is equal to 12. So now in our final step, we're going to add up all our terms. So we have 30 minus 24i plus 15i, and then plus 12. Well, remember, we want to combine our like terms. So 30 plus 12 is going to give me 42. And then I have minus 24i plus 15i. So minus 24i plus 15i is going to give us minus 9i. So this is now my final answer. And so that should hopefully help you do the Unit 5 test part 2.